Hello and welcome to Philosophy 201 Critical Thinking at Antelope Valley College. I'm your instructor, Nate Greeley. So this is entirely online asynchronous course, so you'll be seeing me primarily in this form in these video lectures. I'll also be holding office hours. Um, so to get started, let me introduce myself and then I'll get a little bit into what the class involves. And today will be a relatively, short lecture. First day of class, sort of just setting up the expectations and what you need to know about how to take this course. So this is me, Nate Greeley. You can just call me Nate. You don't have to call me, Mr. Professor or whatever. I have a PhD in philosophy and cognitive science from UC San Diego. That's my email right there if you need to reach me. You can also reach me through the messaging function in Canvas. And I'll be holding regular office hours on Mondays, 9:30 to 10:30 a.m. on Zoom. The Zoom link is in on the syllabus page of the Canvas. And of course, if that time doesn't work for you and you really need to talk to me, of course, I can always respond to an email, but I could also Zoom at another time if you just, shoot me a message or an email and we can arrange to meet outside that hour. But I will be there hanging out, waiting to chat with people every Monday at 9:30. So, what is critical thinking? It's sort of a fuzzy, a different. I find different courses teach it differently, and every critical thinking course is a little bit different. So, this is the way I think about it, and it may be, idiosyncratic, but it's what I think is the best approach, given my background in cognitive science. Um, so, I'm going to define critical thinking as the ability to make decisions based on truth-preserving forms of reasoning. So, two things that are important to that sort of compact definition. First of all, I think critical thinking, the point of it is so that we can make good decisions in our lives and hopefully get the outcomes in our lives that we want, right? We all want a good life. Um, I'll say a bit more about this in the first actual lecture. Uh, but critical thinking is a very practical skill. At certain points in the course, it might seem sort of abstract and sort of disconnected from reality in your real life, um, but it all adds up to, critical thinking is a way for you to get what you want out of life. And in order to do that, you need to stay in touch with reality, right? And that's where truth comes in. So we reason all the time and we make inferences because we have to move from, the sort of information that we have stored in our head to new information. We have to understand arguments people are giving us to make us believe certain things. We have to convince ourselves of what the truth is using, you know, the information we get from science and from statisticians and just from our own senses. And we need to use that to make inferential leaps, right, to apply it to specific situations. So all that requires a lot of reasoning, right? And the goal isn't purely abstract. The goal is, again, if you want to make money, that's how you make money, right? Is you have to uh, make sure that all your reasoning is truth preserving and that you don't end up believing something that's false, something that, is not the way the world is, so you don't go off on some wild goose chase, uh, not getting what you want out of life, right? So the goal here is to keep you in touch with reality, keep you in touch with the truth, and uh, we have a lot of information. Scientists have developed a lot of information about how to predict the future, right? That's what science does, is we make predictions. And so, you can know with a reasonable probability whether a certain investment is going to do well or not do well if you take the time to think critically. And, if your goal is to make money, you can do that. If your goal is to help people, you can do that more effectively, right? So it's all about, uh, again, keeping you in touch with the truth, making truth-preserving inferences, right? So that, humanity has come up with a finite set of good forms of reasoning. We'll also, in the beginning of the class, survey some of the bad forms of reasoning that people tend to fall into, just to sort of convince you that you need the course. But those basic forms of reasoning are deductive logic, right, and induction, which can take the form of statistical reasoning, causal reasoning, and then so you'll learn to be able to, read an article or a scientific paper that makes some claim about, whether eating Doritos causes cholesterol, and you can analyze that. Uh, you should be, by the end of this course, be able to sort of analyze that study and and see what it really means, because often the information you get from the press is simplified and sometimes uh, sensationalized a little bit. They want the clicks, right? It's not that the scientists are um, wrong or fabricating information, but sometimes the press will sort of run with something and not give you all the kind of the detail and the context. So I'm going to teach you how to understand the detail and the context, how to use this information that we get from science and apply it to your life. And so that's the last part of the class that often doesn't get covered in critical thinking classes is decision theory. Um, just because we get information about some relationship between eating Doritos and cholesterol, what does that mean for you? Does that mean you should never eat Doritos? Does it mean you should eat Doritos in moderation? Does it mean you really shouldn't worry about eating the Doritos given your own, risk factors and stuff? So you need decision theory to incorporate your own values and apply the information along with the probabilities to come up with, answers on how to live your life. So hopefully by the end of this course, you'll be able to approach all the important decisions in your life rigorously and keep yourself in touch with reality and get the things you want out of life. So that's the goal of this course. All of the text from the course will be provided. So when you're in Canvas and you go to the modules, and the modules are the best way to take this course. You can just kind of click from here's the reading, now here's the lecture on the reading, here's the lecture slides, here's the homework, and so on. If you just keep clicking next, and so all the readings will be posted in the modules where they belong. So it shouldn't be too difficult. You don't have to go buy any books. The lectures also in video form, posted to the Canvas. They're all already up there, so you can conceivably go through this course at your own speed. I do release the quizzes at certain times, so that's the only thing that would sort of slow you down. And I encourage you to take the time to read the lectures and the videos. And here's something I'll probably have to repeat multiple times, not just in this video, but in announcements over the course. I find people try to take the course without doing the readings and without watching the lectures and just trying to Google the answers. It won't work. Um, you will fail the course if you do that, right? Some of you will attempt it. You will get zeros on assignments because it's very obvious to me when that's happening, right? Um, this course, the text has a very specific approach to these issues, right? If you just go out into the wilds of the internet, you'll get different methods, different terminology, and it's very obvious to me when you're not using the course material. And this course is designed around this course material, right? It's not to say that everything on the internet is false, but it's not going to mesh with this course. It's not going to help you understand these things in the way that I've designed the course. So it'll always be, it's it's very easy for me to know if you're using the internet to answer the questions and not watching the lectures and not reading the text, and you won't pass if you do that. So I'm sure I'll have to remind people again, but here's my first reminder on that topic, right? So yeah, read the readings. I've chosen readings that are relatively, as this stuff goes, they're pretty easy to read, compared to some logic textbooks and things like that. So, this one by Rick Rush he was my advisor at UCSD. I think he wrote the best text. It's not really available very broadly. I'm giving it to you because I think you'll be able to read it and you'll be able to understand it. Just take the time to do it. Okay, learning outcomes. So, every university requires us to say something about learning outcomes. I mean, here, the learning outcome I want is for you to, get to live the life you want to live. And if you take the course and understand the course, I'm going to give you a rigorous, uh, proven over thousands and years and centuries uh, methods to achieve what you want out of life. So, um, in this class, you're going to do that by participating in discussions and completing some homework and completing some quizzes and paying attention to the text and the lectures. And if you do all that, your life will be better. Um, so assessments, active learning is super important. And in some ways, online courses are great for that because uh, I'm not there in the room with you to answer every little question. Students do have to sort of search out the information themselves, and I think that can be good. But also, you don't get the interaction with other people, and so I try to approximate that um, in my assessments, right? So there is a discussion forum. You're required to post to it every week, and the idea is to collaborate with other students on the homework, right? You're not cheating. I want you to discuss the homework. I want you to help each other out. If you're stuck on a homework problem, go to the discussion board and say, hey, I got this answer for number two, but I don't think it's right. What did you get? Here's how far I got. And then you only need to post once to the discussion. It could be a question, or if you think you've got it nailed and you don't really have any questions, then answer other people's questions, right? But that's got to be the focus. So if you are posting, oh yeah, I found it really hard this week, or I found it really easy this week, that's not helping anybody. That's not helping yourself. You're not going to get points for that kind of discussion post, right? Um, so it has to be focused on specific questions, collaborating on getting that homework done. I appreciate the feedback. When people say, "Oh, I really liked this, this section or whatever," but that's not what the discussion is for, and I can't give you points for that. Um, okay, there will be quizzes. So the homework is graded on completion, right? So long as I see an honest attempt to work through the homework, even if you get some of the questions wrong, you'll get full points. You will not get full points if I can tell you copied and pasted the questions into a search engine or into an AI engine and pasted the answers back. Again, it's always very obvious to me. The terminology is off, the formats are off, and you won't get the points, right? But so if, again, homework should be easy, free points, as long as you are actually engaging with the course material and um, trying to answer the questions based on that. You'll get the points even if you don't get the answers right. That's fine. That's part of the process of learning. So between the discussions and the homework, it's a big chunk of your grade, right? So as long as you do that right and don't get lazy and post, not forget about the discussions or just post something really lazy that doesn't engage. If you're doing that part, that's like 40% of your grade, right? And that does a lot of heavy lifting. So if you stick with that stuff, you'll do better on the quizzes and the exams because you will have engaged with material. And then also, even if you kind of tank a quiz, even though you tried your best, that homework and that attendance will really lift your grade a lot if you're doing it sincerely and putting in the effort. So again, yeah, this is the breakdown, right? Discussion, participation, 15%, homework, 20%. So sorry, together those are 35% of your grade. So a big chunk, right? Then you've got quizzes. So the format of the quizzes will be the same as the format of the homework. So if you, and I will, after the homework is due, I will post the answers to the homework automatically. Now, I can't take late homework because the answers are posted right after it's due. So get that homework in on time. I can't take makeups for that. The quizzes, if you have a good, reason or excuse why you were a little late on the quiz, I can usually give you an extension on that. But with the homework, it's like the answers are available to everyone at a certain date. And so, at that point, you could just copy and paste the answers into the homework. So I just can't accept it late, right? But again, the quizzes will be similar format to the homework. So if you did well on the homework, you should do well on the quizzes. Midterm will be same format as the quizzes, right? The quizzes are just, we'll cover informal fallacies, right? Which is a bad form of reasoning that I want you to be able to recognize. So, you know, the homeworks will be, I'll describe an argument. I'll say, is a fallacy being committed here? One of these bad forms of reasoning. And you'll say, yes, it's this one, right? I'll teach you the names of all the different fallacies. The questions on the quizzes for informal fallacies will be in the same format. And then a few of those will show up on the midterm. Not the exact same question, but the same format. And again, for the final. So the midterm will cover everything up to the middle of the course. The final will cover the whole course, right? So again, all this stuff adds up together. So the final has to be for everything on the course, but the formats are going to be very similar, homework to quiz to exams. So diversity and inclusion, I want everyone to feel welcome in this class. I mean, typically there's not very controversial material covered here. It's just about reasoning and logic, but if for any reason a topic comes up or something comes up where you're feeling like you can't participate, I want everyone to be able to participate. So let me know and I'll help you out. I can come up with some alternative for you. If I ever say something or someone in the discussion is making you not feel welcome, let me know. And I'm happy to do my best to fix that. My experience is that, you students are very aware of this stuff and you're all really quite respectful in these discussions and stuff like that. But I just want you to know I'm here, happy to hear any concerns on those points. Academic integrity, again, right? It's an issue in this course because it might seem that you could just if you copy, right, the quiz question and plug it into ChatGPT, you will get an answer and you might think, oh, this is easy. There'll be the wrong answers, there'll be the wrong format, it'll be the wrong terminology, it'll be very obvious to me that you're cheating, and you'll get zeros, right? If you keep it up, I mean, if you want to go down the road of like me reporting it to the administration and doing that, that's an ugly process. Nobody wants to be involved. So just don't do it. Again, I make it very easy. Just try your best on the homework. You'll get the points. Why try and just copy and paste it so anyways, I'm sure this will come up again. It always does. I wish it didn't have to. Um, but yeah, don't use the internet to answer the questions. You'll flunk the class. If you have any accommodations, I designed the course so that most of the time people with accommodations, if you have um, extra time on exams and stuff, the exams aren't timed. Uh, so, but if there is any issue with accessibility or if you have a disability accommodations, let me know. There is a process, right? So I'm not the first person to talk to about it. You'll want to contact the OSD office and let them know so that they can get all the paperwork done. So they'll let me know that, hey, this person gets this sort of, these kinds of extensions or whatever. And then I'm happy to help you with that. Um, religious accommodation, if there's any sort of religious holidays or anything, and you need extensions. Again, it's tough with the homework. It's hard to do extensions because unless you're like in the hospital and you're like, I just couldn't, I was unconscious or whatever, right? Then yeah, I'll find something out. I'll figure out an alternative homework assignment. But by and large, I can't really take late homework. All the other stuff, the quizzes and the exams, just keep me in the loop, and I should be able to help you out there if you need accommodation.